So it is my great pleasure for me to introduce our speakers today, Dr. Jane Humphries and Christine Jenkins, who will present SC First Steps, Building Early Childhood Leadership. And just to do a quick bio of both of them, Dr. Jane Humphries currently serves as professional e-learning specialist at the McCormick Center for Early Childhood Leadership at National Louis University, supporting the Aim for Excellence National Director Credential. Her experience in early care and education has included a multitude of positions to include being an administration of an early childhood program, creator of professional development systems, child and parenting specialist, college instructor, research, and published author. She has earned undergraduate degrees in family and child development, a master's degree in early childhood education, and a doctoral degree in occupational adult education from Oklahoma State University. Christine Jenkins currently serves as a 4K manager with SC First Steps here. In this role, she is in charge of director development, supporting the Aim for Excellence National Director Credential. Her experience in early care and education has included many positions, including being an owner and administration of 3 early childhood programs, Master Certified Trainer, SC Early Childhood Association President, and SC First Steps 4K Coach. She has earned an undergraduate degree in biology and secondary education and a master's degree in early childhood education from the University of South Carolina. So now on to our speakers. Let me stop sharing my screen.
All right, Christopher, thank you so much for those lovely introductions, and certainly want to welcome everyone to our presentation today. Let's see if we can get it pulled up on the screen here. I certainly want to let you know that today we are here to share insights about how we have partnered with South Carolina First Steps to renew and rebuild and reinvigorate early childhood leadership capacity. The McCormick Center for Early Childhood Leadership at National Louis University has been dedicated for over 3 decades to improving the quality of early learning programs through professional development, research and evaluation, and of course, public awareness. Our drive has been to promote a greater understanding of the critical role of early childhood leaders in the provision of quality services for children and families. This drive for this past 30 years is now culminating into a national movement to support early childhood leaders, which is exciting. And of course, one that we are pleased to partner with South Carolina and so many other states. As Christopher said, my name is Jane Humphries, and I currently serve as the Aim for Excellence Specialist, and I get the dutiful honor to be able to work with Christine Jenkins in your great state of South Carolina. As Christopher talked about, I have been a director in an early childhood program that was NACE approved. Certainly have worked a lot in Oklahoma when we started to put up our professional development wheels here in our state. And then after joining the McCormick Center for Early Childhood Leadership, as a person who truly believes in quality care and education for young children, of course, after being in the role of early childhood leader and now being able to support early childhood leaders, so very, very thankful to be in this place. I'm sure you can tell by the accent, this is not an Illinois accent, which is where the McCormick Center is located. I'm actually in Oklahoma and actually in the Oklahoma City area. And so it really is a pleasure to be with you today, and welcome to my home office.
And good morning. My name is Christine Jenkins, and I serve with South Carolina First Steps, and I am the liaison in South Carolina supporting the Aim for Excellence program. In my position with South Carolina First Steps, I serve as a 4K manager, and I work with our 4K program, overseeing a group of coaches that implement our program, and support our teachers, but also work with director development. And bringing the Aim for Excellence program, the National Director's Credential, to South Carolina is part of the way that we're helping to grow and support the leadership in South Carolina.
So, quick question, Christine. Wanted to ask you, how long has this partnership been between the two of us?
The partnership with the McCormick Center and Aim for Excellence has been going on for about 5 to 6 years. We are currently supporting our 4th cohort of child care directors and administrators through the Aim for Excellence program. So we've got our 4th group going right now.
Great, great. And how did you hear about Aim for Excellence?
I actually heard about it several years ago when I was a child care director. Part of First Steps in our organization, we not only have the 4K program, but the other branch of First Steps is our local partnership offices. And so every county in the state has a local partnership office. The county that I was located in Horry County, the executive director there had a program where she supported director education, and we had speakers that came from the McCormick Center and gave us professional development. And that's how I first learned about the McCormick Center, and then started finding out about other opportunities that they had for professional development and training that was especially tailored towards child care directors and administrators in early education. So
Great.
That's how I got involved with this.
Great. Well, I'm always the history buff.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually been with the program now for 4 years, and I, get the privilege of talking to so many different states that utilize Aim for Excellence. And it's always fun to share kind of the history of how South Carolina has been able to utilize Aim for Excellence. So that, is a great segue to really talk about how this really is a totally online program, and it is specifically for early childhood leaders with a lot of cutting edge professional development that enhances leadership competencies and capacity, which we all know at a national level is becoming more and more a focus. So whether a participant chooses to take one module or they take the entire program like they do in South Carolina, those who satisfactorily complete each one of the modules earn the Aim for Excellence National Director Credential. It is recognized in many states to include South Carolina. And the other beauty is that it supports NAEYC director criteria. And we also have been able to incorporate it to make sure that it is meeting professional development hours in South Carolina. So the good news is that we engage partnerships across the United States, and of course have worked very, very hard to link into quality rating and improvement systems across the nation. We have been able to engage partnerships with institutions of higher education who have actually woven this into either their overall program curriculum, or they are articulating the Aim for Excellence National Director Credential into a college credit amount. And so that has been a nice blend. We have been able to, and many of the participants that are in South Carolina have opted to take Aim for Excellence for college credit, which we provide through National Louis University, which we'll talk about more here in just a little bit. But the exciting part is that we have this whole program built around an early childhood education leadership framework, which I wanted to talk with you more a little bit about. So as the partnership has come together in the framework, one of the things that I wanted to be sure to share with you is not only is South Carolina a partner, but also other states. Good news is there's been a lot of available funding, as you all are aware, and many states are incorporating. So let's just take a quick peek at some of the states that we are partnering with. We have Alabama and Colorado. We fit into the Delaware Administrator's Credential, Florida's Director Credential, Georgia's Quality Rating System, and of course the Illinois Director Credential. We move on to Indiana's Pathways to Quality, Iowa's Quality Rating System, Kansas's Early Childhood Director Credential, and in Maryland, they have their Excels program, and we fit into their Maryland Child Care Credential program. As you can see, there's a lot going on out there. Michigan's State Registry recognizes us. North Carolina for professional development through approved distance learning. North Dakota's Growing Futures actually recognizes the Aim for Excellence credential as the credential for their state. Ohio's Administrator Credential, Oklahoma's Director Credential. The Pennsylvania Keystone Stars, and of course South Carolina Endeavors. Texas Child Care Licensing, and soon into their Texas Registry. Utah's CCQS Management and Administration Requirements, the Wisconsin Registry, and coming soon, we are going to be adding Wyoming and Vermont. So, as I mentioned earlier, you can take the modules for college credit. All of the modules support a total of 3 online college courses using the modules as course curriculum. Each course is 3 determined modules that help support that. So total course credit is either 5 quarter hours or 3 college credit hours per course, which we all know can be very different. Christine, did you want to talk a little bit about how this fits into the scholarship opportunities with First Steps?
Yeah, I'd actually love to share that. For the last several years, the scholarships have been offered to 4K child care directors and administrators that were working only with the 4K program within First Steps. This year, because of additional funding that has come through our PDG grant, which is the preschool development grant that came through a federal grant, we were able to expand our reach not only to 4K child care directors, but also to those that work with our local partnership offices, particularly if they're working on quality enhancement. So we have provided scholarships for them. Excuse me. We provided scholarships for them that include not only covering the cost of the modules, but if the administrator has not yet completed a bachelor degree or above, then we will also support the cost of the undergraduate credits. So we're happy to do that to help to continue the education and support building that leadership in South Carolina.
Great. So what has been the latest, I guess, process for you all in regards to getting people to participate, Christine?
We had, in September, we had put out emails to the 4K providers that work with our program, we have over 270 providers that we work with. So we put it out to them, and then we also sent it out to the TAs that work with our local partnership offices, and asked them to share with people that they work with in quality enhancement. So anyone that was interested was able to fill out a survey, and then a team of us reviewed the applications for the program, and selections were made for participation, from that point.
Great. And about how many are in a cohort, and how many apply?
we had, let's see, we had about 35 people apply, and we selected about 25 people to participate in this last cohort.
Great, great. And how many are you anticipating cohort-wise in the future?
Depending on the funding, it would be wonderful to get a cohort built up to about 30 to 35. If we have people that want to go through the program.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, and South Carolina isn't any different than many of the states that I'm currently working with. The ramifications of the pandemic have certainly broken down, the early childhood leader capacity in so many states. And I'm probably quite sure the same as for South Carolina. And I know when Christine and I were talking together, it was really about not only, building capacity, but truly trying to reinvigorate the leadership capacity that is in your state. There has just been with, staff shortages, and then of course having to deal with the pandemic, classrooms and or programs having to shut down, reopen again, whatever that might be, has been really particularly hard. And so it's exciting that there are so many opportunities that are opening up, and certainly there in South Carolina as well. So let's take a peek and just talk a little bit about each one of the modules so you can kind of get a little bit of a feel for them. And we'll kind of talk about each one, but also, I kind of want Christine to share feedback that she gets, those aha moments from participants. So module 1 really talks about leading the way, and it really is about turning the mirror on the individual who is going to be in that leadership capacity. It's, not only understanding that role, but then also really thinking about, as that leader, how do you create and also how do you sustain an early childhood program? I know for myself, when I took over a program at the ripe old age of 21 with my associate's degree in hand, I was young and dumb at that time and was so excited about being in a leadership role in early childhood, I forgot to ask the question about the financial stability of the program. And so after I was hired, about the first couple of weeks, they said, oh, by the way, if you can't, turn this around financially in the next, 9 to 12 months, we're going to have to shut the doors. And so to say the least, I'd come from corporate childcare, and so thankfully I had some sort of a financial brain. But looking back, I wish that I would have understood not only my role, but really to have had this as a platform would have been very nice. The second module gets into recruiting, selecting, and orienting staff. Just like the labels say, it's how do you not only bring people into your program, but finding the right people, and then also conducting yourself in a very effective, ethical, and lawful way. Module 3 gets into promoting peak performance, and this is about your role as, really working with supervising staff, but also building that teacher and leadership capacity within the program. This is about also creating that sense of community through the teaching group that you have, and just overall peak performance for the program as it serves the community. Module 4 gets into managing program operations. Again, not only is this about systems thinking and how you have to set up different types of systems to be able to support and sustain the program, but also thinking about how do you alleviate risk within the early childhood program environment. Module 5 gets into building a sound financial strategy. And this is about finances, it's about budget, and it is about building not only for the here and now, but also for the future. Module 6, from a leadership perspective, gets into designing indoor and outdoor environments. And this is for infants and toddlers and preschool age, as well as school age. Module 7 gets into supporting children's development and learning. Again, very much a nice lens that looks at infant and toddler and then preschool as well as school age. Module 8 is about facilitating responsive family engagement, the connections between the family, the programs, and community resources, which I was delighted to hear about the launch of the South Carolina program yesterday. And then last is Module 9, which speaks to evaluating program quality for continuous improvement. So with that said, and just kind of that overview that's there, what have been some of the aha moments in the modules, Christine, for your participants?
Well, I will say that the first thing is that what attracted me to this program, what came out of what I saw as a child care director in the years that I was operating my own programs, because I came into the role as an educator and not as a business person. And I knew that was a gap in my own knowledge. So it was wonderful to be able to see a program that really tailored towards the various different skills that an administrator for an early education program needs to have. And those business skills were definitely one of the ones that appealed to me. But then also the concept of the online education, because it was available when I was available. And I didn't have to worry about if a course was only offered during the day when I was trying to operate the business. So those two things were really what initially drew me to this program. As far as the feedback that I've gotten from the participants that we've had over our 4 cohorts in this, I've gotten a lot of wonderful feedback, and every module they say, well, I think that one's my favorite module. Oh, well, now this one's my next favorite module. The next one they do is their next favorite. But starting off with leading the way, because oftentimes our administrators realize that they're a leader of their program, but they don't view themselves as a leader in the field. And so this module really helps them to recognize their place as that leader in the field of education, as well as in the community, and how they can help to build that not only within their organization, but also in the greater education field of early education. The recruiting, selecting, and orienting staff module, the second module, is always one of the favorites because it's always needed. In this field, we see a lot of turnover, and this helps with how you can find staff and how you can find the right staff, and then how you can work to hang on to the staff that you have. So it's always timely, it's always useful, and there are a lot of wonderful suggestions in there to help improve your practice. The modules 4 and 5 that are regarding the business operations tend to be the ones that challenge us the most, but they have, there's a lot of meat in there that is very useful. So those are often, well received, but they do work a little harder on those, I think. But they love the information that comes out of that. And then the concept of the systems building allows them to think, if they are a person that may have multiple locations, then that allows them to think beyond that one location and how to broaden their business without making themselves crazy in the process. So a lot of them, and some of the folks that come into this may also come from a business background and not have the early childhood background. So if they do come into it that way, then having that module on the designing the indoor and outdoor environments, that really helps to support the tenets that are, best practices in early education. So I don't think that there's any module that I haven't received wonderful feedback on. And a lot of the information is so useful and immediately useful is really what I hear, is that they're working through a module and they're implementing the changes that they decide they want to make as they're working through the module in their programs. So it's a wonderful reflective practice and immediately useful.
So as the group works together, Christine, do you see do you see friendships? Do you see cohesiveness? Do you see sharing? Do you meet with them on a monthly basis? How does that work?
We do. It's another feature of this program that is definitely a strong asset of the program, because child care directors are often working in a silo. They are part of their organization, but they tend to stand off from their staff because they're the boss, and so there's always a little bit of separation there. And then they may be part of their community, and there may be other administrators and directors in that area, but they are competitors. So, that line of friendship and support only goes so far.
Right.
So this is a nice avenue for these people to come together and to come together in an environment that is not necessarily where there is that sense of competitiveness, and they can support each other and they can build bonds and share information. So we have monthly meetings, and they're online meetings where the cohort comes together and we talk about the module, we talk about the activities, we talk about ways that we can, support each other through this, or ideas that we may share with each other, to address the content. But oftentimes the conversation goes beyond that, and it goes into, well, when I was doing this exercise, I had, this incident came to mind, and, how would you have handled that? Or, does anybody have some insight, or have you gone through something like this? So oftentimes it gives them that opportunity to be able to share those experiences that they may not otherwise have. So having a facilitator such as myself, and I have two other people that are currently working with me to prepare to be facilitators, that gives kind of that neutral person that can be a support, that could be a coach, that can be a moderator if need be, and but provides that opportunity for this group to come together. So as we go through this process, the group bonds and definitely, because we're all across the state of South Carolina. So the person that you may connect with may be in, from the low country to the upstate, but, but you bring that bond together where you may not have crossed paths otherwise.
Yeah. And how many months is it usually?
Usually we go about 9 to 10 months, because we complete a module per month. And there's 9 modules. So, between the startup and the conclusion, and sometimes we may need a little bit of extra time in there. So we look at about 9 to 10 months. So we usually have a cohort per year is what we look at.
Yeah, because life happens, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
there's been a lot of life happening.
Yes, and in our last cohort, it was entirely during the COVID lockdown period, so there was a lot of life happening,
Yes.
and so that one took a little bit extra time. But you know, we have some ability to be flexible with that. You know, of course, the McCormick Center has some timelines that we have to adhere to. We set some timelines that we try to work with, but we also try to be supportive and understanding when we know that, you know, sometimes life does get in the way.
Yeah, and it really has.
Mm-hmm.
This past year and a half-ish. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Dana has a quick question, and it says, are there opportunities for childcare workers other than directors and administrators to participate in any of these professional development opportunities?
If you are a person that you feel like, you know, this is a leadership path is something that's in your future and you want to work towards that, then yes, there may be opportunities, you know, for that. It would depend on how you come to us and how you're supported in your center. So right now, you know, we are working with the quality enhancement programs in our local partnership offices, and we're offering it through the 4K program. So it may be possible, but it just depends. But people could also take these independently. You know, it may be at their own cost, but if they wanted to take it independently, but be part of our cohort so that they have that group and that support, then if we can get the McCormick Center to connect them with our South Carolina program, then we could definitely do that. So that would be, you know, that would be something where I would say that, you know, Dana might be able to reach out to me and we could talk through the particulars.
Super.
Mhm.
Christine, be sure to put that email address in the comments so she's got that.
All right.
And while she's doing that, I did want to show you all kind of what it looks like so that you kind of get a little bit of a feel for it. This is kind of how all of our modules are set up. And as you can see, we each and every time have kind of a what to expect, introduction piece. It gives you an opportunity to see. We have auto score activities. I'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a second. But as you can see, it's very easily laid out for you. And the other thing that you will always find in our supplemental resources is a plethora of articles and information that you can download and keep while you're taking the modules. And these are always, not only they were selected with the mindset, because I was one of the main subject matter experts when the program was just revamped in 2020, is that information is not only there for the purposes of the individual taking Aim for Excellence, but also in mind as you are wanting to better inform staff, you want to encourage staff, you want to give staff really good readings and information that is coming from resources that are not super dry. I mean, it really is very practical in nature. And so, again, all of that was in mind. But this is just to give you kind of a brief glimpse of how it is set up. And again, a very easy process as you walk through taking the curriculum. All right. So let's talk about how we build the Aim for Excellence program and a little bit of the history of how we've kind of come to this whole leadership framework. A lot of people are always ask, you know, kind of where did this come from? And the Aim for Excellence program started in about the mid-2000s, and that major subject matter expert at that time was Dr. Paula Jordan Plume, who has had a tremendous amount of publications out there that support early childhood leaders. And since that time, alongside Paula at the McCormick Center, Dr. Terry Talon, Dr. Jill Bella, Dr. Mike Abel, and Dr. Marie Masterson have really worked collectively together to continue to build on what Paula started. And they have pulled together what is now understood as the whole leadership framework. As the framework came together, it was in response to the Transforming the Workforce for Children Birth to Age 8, which is the unifying foundation. This leadership idea was found to be an emerging and important component to really increase workforce capacity in early childhood education. Because program leaders are included with other individuals considered to be lead educators, a clear understanding of truly how this foundational knowledge and competencies was identified and a necessary component for successful implementation. So the whole leadership framework, which I have here for you to kind of take a little gander at, was initially developed through an iterative process which engaged the field across the country. Thought leaders at the McCormick Center, they worked for over a year to examine the domains of early childhood program leadership, and they compared their findings to existing standards and structures, which included NAEYC accreditation. They authored blog posts that received a lot of feedback from February through May of 2016. There were 82 individual comments that came in to help explore the various aspects of the whole leadership framework. Then at our 2016 Leadership Connections Conference, even more were brought to the table to include national stakeholders to form what was the ultimate piece of how the whole leadership framework is now, which is very deep and a very rich exploration of each one of the whole leadership framework domains. So when you look at the framework, you'll see the pedagogical leadership, you see the administrative leadership, and you see the tools for leadership essentials. All three of those areas help to involve and maximize team leadership from both an operational and a strategic leadership lens. It was found that in the pedagogical leadership piece, which so many of our people who are moved into early childhood leadership positions, they have a strong understanding of that piece, because they've been in the teaching world. So they understand that coaching and mentoring, they understand curriculum and, how you implement that in the classroom and how people work together, and even assessment methodology that happens in the classroom. But that whole other piece, those tools for administrative leadership and what it takes to be a leader, was areas where people felt like that they needed more assistance. So, for example, the tools for leadership essentials really dig into, within the modules, how you are able to be aware not only of yourself, but others when you're leading, and overarching knowledge of the profession. So it's not just from this pedagogical lens, it is really now more from a pedagogical and then a leadership lens that then connects to the greater community. Of course, communication and team building is essential when you're talking about leading others and having a vision and a mission that wants to provide a quality early childhood program. We want for a leader to have cultural competence and certainly lead that program very ethically and morally. And when you're leading others, there's a lot of intentionality that has to happen from that leader. Not only what is it that you want for the program, but what values you bring to the program, and overall, who are you connecting with? Who are you recruiting into your program? And who are you surrounding yourself with to provide that care? And then, of course, motivating them each and every day to come in and do the hard work of working each and every day with the children in the classroom. From an administrative leadership lens, we talked about and broke it down into 4 different areas. So that's operational leadership, strategic leadership, advocacy, which is another great component for an early childhood leader to be involved in, and community leadership. So when you, of course, talk about operational leadership, that's going to be the hiring and supporting staff and overseeing budgets and, really fostering those positive workforce climates. But then from a strategic leadership standpoint, you're going to be goal setting and you're going to be guiding future program direction. As a leader, and certainly in these times right now, I'm sure we're celebrating from being open from 6 o'clock in the morning till noon, and we've made it this far. So now we're trying to get from noon until 6 o'clock in the evening. And it is hard sometimes to be just caught up in what is happening right now. Strategic leadership is about thinking about not only now, but down the road. Advocacy, being that ambassador that really reaches out to the community, not only locally, but statewide, about the needs of the children and families that you serve. And ultimately, that community leadership, being a part of not only the local organizations, but also building that sense of community with other programs in the area. The pedagogical leadership side is going from, if you are a teacher who is now going to be moving into that role, it's how do you coach and mentor skills? Some programs have the luxury, such, for example, Head Start, that they have people who are in the roles of coaching and mentoring, but many times directors have to be that role. How do you have the ability to understand child development, but how do you apply that in classroom settings? How do directors, observe on a regular basis and help to enhance their teachers and their understanding of children's development? Of course, that evidence-based pedagogy, the knowledge of assessment, because we know that has become a hot topic or a hot button in many, many areas of the country. But how do we do that from a developmentally appropriate aspect? Certainly your technical credibility, again, from understanding those main elements that are really necessary in infant and toddler programs versus preschool programs versus school age programs. Ultimately understanding adult learning as you are helping to not only build yourself professionally, but also helping your staff understand a professional development path, and having that family focus and understanding today's families, because they come from all different walks of life and all different walks of just structures. And so there's been a lot of change. But as you pull each one of those domains together, they are all equally important. And, we kind of talk about how the whole leadership framework is kind of like ballroom dancing. Each one of those areas, you are that person who is leading sometimes, and sometimes you're following, because you're trying to strive and kind of find that balance between what it is you need to do and what is needed at that particular time. I'm going to toss it back to Christine, because I want to ask her, when you think about that whole leadership framework, and as you think about participants, what have you seen kind of morph and grow when the cohorts are taking place?
Well, as we have participants going through this program, I think that being able to uh, see the various different components that are involved in the scope of their day-to-day work, and how they develop themselves and the skills that they develop and the knowledge base that they develop. Some of them they they may have an awareness of, but they don't really identify it with, the terminology that you may use. And they're like, oh, yeah, okay, that's definitely part of what I do. Because most directors feel like, they're constantly putting on different caps. You might be the cook, you might be the bus driver, you might be the plumber, you might be, the principal, yeah, the teacher, the counselor. So there's all these different hats that you wear, and being able to look at this concept of the whole leadership, it enables them to identify all those different things. And in that process, you can also identify where your strengths and weaknesses are. And so that you know where you might want to, build your knowledge base. But it also acknowledges the professionalism that is inherent in this job, but is often not noticed or acknowledged in this job.
Yeah.
And so it allows them to see themselves and for others to see them as that leader, as that professional, as that person that is incredibly valuable, not only in the scope of education and for our young children and for our families, but for our communities and, and for the field in general. So, this time during the pandemic over the last 2 years has shown our society just how critical the field of early education is and how much we depend on our child care providers. We all saw on the news like what's going on around the world, but I can speak to what I saw that was going on here in South Carolina, that many of our child care providers stayed open through the pandemic, and that when the schools closed or went virtual, a lot of times they were still providing face-to-face care and education, but then they also had school-age children that were coming in and doing their virtual work within the housing of a child care center. So they took on those additional responsibilities. Yeah. And our community saw just how much they depended on those child care providers. But we also saw a lot of breakdown in the world of that business, because they were struggling. They're still struggling. They're struggling to get people to work for them and to continue to provide that level of care and education that's needed so badly. So it was a double-edged sword, for them, because they were seen as valuable, but the value hasn't translated into really being, supported and elevated yet. So I'm hoping that that's part of what can come out of building leaders, because we need to build the capacity in the field, and it's going to start with our leadership.
Yeah. Well, and Shelley has put in the comments that, that she's not only appreciated the insight, but also really acknowledged the cultivating a community of practice, in this arena is crucial. I see it, and I get the privilege to be the person, because I'm the faculty of record in this program. And so while I work with scores, as they, review written EOLs, I periodically go in and read and really look at what's being reflected. And it's always interesting to me, especially towards the end when I start seeing some of the EOLs that get submitted, especially those that are in cohorts like Christine's. Just this immense gratitude of not only understanding their program, but also recognizing that they've come from the here and now of just what is happening for me to this greater aspect of, I have other people out here, and, we're going to continue to move forward together versus, that feeling of isolation, that Christine talked about. So we are very, very excited to be a part of that growth for you all in South Carolina. And again, to just be a part of helping to rebuild ultimately, programs. Christine, any other thoughts before I wrap this up that you wanted to share?
Just that we're definitely hoping to continue to be able to support this program, the scholarship program, and being able to support the cohorts. And we hope to grow it. We hope that maybe we can operate multiple cohorts within a year. So that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to bring in additional facilitators. So it's not only me. So we hope to expand this. So if we do have the financial support to expand it, like we have been, blessed with being able to get some funding through the preschool development grant to help to support this, and the 4K program has supported it. We hope that there'll be more and more opportunities so that we can continue to, build capacity in our leadership in early childhood, as well as, refresh, renew, reinvigorate, and just build that family within this field. There's a lot of wonderful things going on in South Carolina in early childhood. And so, we hope that maybe this can be one of those bright spots.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So as we wrap this up, again, just want to let you know that we are here, we are available, and we are partnering with the great state of South Carolina. Right now, we've got over 1,700 individuals that have actually achieved the Aim for Excellence National Director Credential. And, it really is about us wanting to support and to help as leaders continue to rebuild after this pandemic to what has many times, I'm sure, felt pretty impossible to feel possible in today's leadership times. So with that said, I wanted to share my contact information for any of you that might be interested in getting more information. But certainly know that Christine is your main contact, and definitely want you to be encouraged to, talk with her and certainly help support in any way that you can, because we are absolutely delighted to be working together.
Yes, absolutely. And it's wonderful to be able to intersect with, an organization such as the McCormick Center for Early Childhood Leadership, and of course, National Louis University. And it's been an absolute blessing to be able to work with you, Jane. You're very supportive, and, it definitely makes this a lot easier to be able to implement when you have somebody that gets it. Really gets it.
Yeah.
So I've put my contact information in the chat box. So if anybody does want to reach out to me for information about how this is implemented and the opportunities that are available in South Carolina, then feel free to reach out to me.
Super. And I just popped mine in the comments as well.
Okay.
Any questions or comments? We have just a few minutes here. I don't know if Christopher's also got some things he might have to tell you too. So questions or comments?
Well, thanks for this opportunity to be able to share about this program
Yes.
and about what we're doing, here in South Carolina. We appreciate that.
Yes. Thank you all. Thank you all, and have a wonderful holiday season.